Hey folks, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Mine was pretty good. Got some time to actually relax and think about some of the things that I want to do over the next few weeks. Anyway, I've got a lot I want to talk about today, and I've got a few articles I want to cover, and then I want to go into some thoughts about the end of the year and the coming year. But before I get into all that, I want to go over, I think I've got about 4 articles here. Some of these are long, so I'm only going to read clips out of them. But it's things that we need to be aware of and pay attention to, and that might be signaling what is coming down the pipe in terms of what we can expect next year. So, the brokered rail deal is the first thing I want to talk about. The railroad strike. Biden brokered a tentative deal, and for a while it looked like the deal was going to be agreed to, but now there are 4 unions that have voted not to ratify the labor deal. This first article is from CNBC. And again, all these articles are going to be linked in the description below. But this first article is with unions aligned, timeline for rail strike and railroad emergency prep is now clear. So the alignment of the 4 unions that have voted not to ratify a labor deal has provided a clear timeline for strike prep plans among freight railroads and with sensitive cargo, including chemicals. The Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen announced Tuesday that it is extending its status quo period through December 8th to align with the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way employees and the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers. If no agreement is reached by then, a coordinated strike could start on December 9th. Railroad unions that voted for ratification have said they will not cross the picket lines and will support their fellow union workers, posing the risk of a nationwide freight rail shutdown. Okay, so essentially what's going on here is 4 of the unions have voted not to ratify. The rest of the unions that did vote to ratify have said that if the 4 that voted against it go on strike, everybody else is going to support them. They're not going to cross the lines. They're going to support them. So we're looking at a total railway strike. So that could have major implications for the economy of this country. Not just in goods not being able to be delivered to stores, but it would include possible fuel deliveries as well. Could be a severe impact on fuel deliveries. A little bit down in the article, according to federal safety measures, railroad carriers begin prepping for a strike 7 days before the strike date. So you would be looking at December 1st or December 2nd as being the start of the preparations. The carriers start to prioritize the securing and movement of security-sensitive materials like chlorine for drinking water and hazardous materials in the rail wind-down. 96 hours before a strike date, chemicals are no longer transported. According to the American Chemistry Council, railroad industry data shows a drop of 1,975 carloads of chemical shipments during the week of September 10th, when the railroad stopped accepting shipments due to a previous threat of a strike. The Association of American Railroads would be expected to release its planning steps, similar to what it announced in September. A new economic analysis released by the American Chemistry Council estimates that a rail strike would impact approximately $2.8 billion in chemical cargo that is moved weekly, with a month-long strike resulting in an overall hit to the economy of $160 billion, or 1 percentage point of GDP. The ACC represents companies across industrial, energy, and pharmaceutical sectors, among other manufacturing niches including 3M, Dow, DuPont, ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Eli Lilly. If no agreement is reached between the four unions and rail carriers during cooling off periods, there could be a strike or a lockout unless Congress intervenes using its power through the Constitution's Commerce Clause. Under this clause, Congress would be able to introduce legislation to stop a strike or a lockout and to set terms of the agreements between the unions and the carriers. That's all I'm going to read out of that one. So we're facing a potentially severe and crippling railroad strike again. For a while it looked like we were going to avoid this, but now it's rearing its ugly head again. If no deal can be reached, Congress does have that clause that they can invoke, but it's difficult to say just how effective that would be, and by the time that they would invoke that, there's no telling how much damage, how much of a delay there would be in delivery of certain products or materials. So there would already, at the point that they would invoke that clause and settle the dispute themselves, there could already be an extensive amount of damage done to the economy due to these strikes. All right, so that's a warning of what could be coming over the next few months. Actually, over the next couple of weeks, to be honest with you. And if the agreement isn't reached, this could drag out for a couple of months. The next article I want to talk about is from Business Insider. The Fed's own economists are sounding the recession alarm and warning that more interest rate hikes could tank the U.S. economy. Some key points to this article. The Federal Reserve staff economist said there's a major risk of U.S. recession next year. They flagged tepid consumer spending, foreign headwinds, and tighter financial conditions. And it's just more economists in a long line of experts warning the U.S. is headed for a painful downturn. Jerome Powell has signaled that rates could peak above 5%. Right now they're in the range of 3.75 to 4%, but he's signaled that rates could peak above 5%. So you're looking at, they've been raising 50 to 75 basis points every time they do a rate increase. So we're looking at least 2, possibly 3 more rate hikes. They've given indications that they're not concerned with any effect that the rate hikes, the current existing rate hikes, have had on inflation or on the economy. That they're looking forward to more rate hikes regardless of how much of an effect the current hikes have had on the economy. So again, this goes back to what I was saying before, that the Fed has a long history of being late to respond, being slow to react. And we're starting to see small amounts of impact from these previous rate hikes. It's not much. It's just tiny amounts. But we are starting to see the impact of those hikes. But now the Fed is saying, well, they're going to completely ignore the impact that we're seeing now. They're not going to hold pattern and wait and see what happens. They're going to continue to go full speed in rate hikes. And they're not looking at reducing these hikes or pivoting until, if I understood them right, at least after next year. So we're looking at 2024. A year of additional rate hikes is more than enough to crash our economy. Going on with this article, as a result of the rate hikes, American consumers could face a double whammy of surging prices, steeper interest payments on the car loans, credit cards, mortgages, and other debts. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and rolling COVID-19 lockdowns in China are also squeezing households as they've disrupted global supply chains and driven up the cost of food, energy, and other essentials. So, again, it's just like every other article I've read you before. This is further indication that even as we reach record highs in interest rates at least for the past few decades, the Fed is not interested in pausing to see what effect their rate hikes are having. They're going to continue with their plan regardless of what they see happen in the markets. The result is going to be the fact that they're going to be continuing to hike rates while the stock market is taking hit after hit after hit with these rate hikes. And then the economy is going to go into a major recession, if not the second Great Depression that a lot of prepper channels and myself have predicted would come. And the Fed will not change their policy. They will not pivot their actions until after we start going into a downturn, a major downturn. The result of that being, by then it'll be too late. So they'll have to play catch up on loosening money in the system. So again, they're going to be slow to react. By the time they do react, it's going to be too late. We're going to be in a deep, deep recession. We're already in a recession if you look at the numbers. Ignore what the Biden administration is saying. Ignore media. Look at the numbers and look at how we used to track and calculate inflation. If you look at all of that the way we used to do it and don't listen to all the propaganda coming out of our government and out of our media, we're already in a recession. This is going to push us into a deep, deep recession, if not a new Great Depression. Companies all over the country are laying off. They're looking at laying off if they're not already doing it. My own company, the last meeting we had, the forecast for next year was extremely bad. They were looking at cuts of at least 25% with the possibility of going higher. So it's not looking good, folks. Right now, things are still relatively okay. Don't take me wrong. I know things are tough. There's a lot of people out there struggling. But, relatively speaking, people can still afford to get certain things. The items are still available. The prices are a little bit higher, but they are still available. If this trend continues like expected into next year and starting even into 2024, it's going to be a lot harder. So take advantage of the opportunity that you have right now. Put back food. Don't hold money in banks. Hold it in valuable, tangible assets that you can hold in your hand that provide for you now, or that will hold their value for you even in a market downturn. All right, the next article. This is from Fortune.com. Top economist Mohamed El-Erian says we're not just headed for another recession, but a profound economic and financial shift. The former CEO of PIMCO sees three trends that suggest a transformation in the global economy is underway. So this is a really long article. There's like 5 pages to this. So I'm not going to read everything, but I am going to read just a couple of paragraphs out of it. The world isn't just teetering on the brink of another recession, he continued. It's in the midst of a profound economic and financial shift. Again, this is what myself and a lot of other prepper channels are talking about when people talk about the coming economic crisis, the coming economic collapse, the next Great Depression. This is what we're talking about. Three major trends transforming the world economy. The first transformational trend is the shift from insufficient demand to insufficient supply. The second is the end of boundless liquidity from central banks. That's the end of endless printing of money from central banks. And then the third is the growing fragility of financial markets. These help to explain many of the unusual economic developments of the last few years, he wrote. And looking forward, he sees even more uncertainty as economic shocks grow more frequent and more violent. Analysts aren't waking up to this yet, he added. The first shift driven by the pandemic, with the entire system coming to a halt, and stimulus from the government, what El-Irian called enormous handouts causing demand surges well ahead of supply. All that vast printing of money that Biden and his administration did, and admittedly it started under Trump as well. But all of that reckless, aggressive printing of money put money into people's hands. People started spending it like crazy, swallowing up the product supply, while at the same time people and businesses were being locked down and not able to produce. Materials were not available. So it ate up the limited supply of product that was out there. So now we're trying to play catch up. The demand is still there, although it is starting to slacken, but the material and the products being produced can't keep up. That's what we're seeing right now. So I'm going to skip on down through this article because there's a lot to this article. Again, the link is down below. I'll let y'all read that if you want to. Like I said, it's a long article. The next one is, and this one comes from Asia Times. Now, this is obviously an Asian-centric platform, publisher, however you want to look at it. And everything that they say in this is centered more around the Asian economies than the U.S. economy. So they do take some shots at the U.S. economy and the U.S. as a whole. But here's the article. China's gold stockpiling is dollar warning sign. Beijing is quietly dumping dollars for gold as greenback strength looks increasingly illusionary. There's a lot here, but skipping down to this paragraph, particularly as the U.S. national debt zooms past $30 trillion, inflation is at 40-year highs, the Federal Reserve is pushing the biggest economy into recession, and a band of firebrand Republicans threatens to play politics with Washington's debt limit again. All right, so I'm going to speak to that one real quick. Everybody's criticizing Republicans for playing politics with the debt limit, trying to put a freeze on the debt limit. There's a lot the Republican Party does that I don't agree with. I'm going to be honest with you. But one of the things that's going on here is that there are some that understand that the continual, nonstop, reckless, aggressive printing of money and spending by the government has to be put under control. We have to rein in the government spending right now if we're going to survive what's coming. We can't spend our way out of it. Everything we spend on, all this money we print, just digs the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like somebody trying to avoid bankruptcy. They use credit cards to buy food. They take out loans to pay off these bills and do that. And they think they're kind of patching everything over and skating by, but what they're actually doing is they're slowly digging their hole deeper and deeper with every decision. At some point, you have to take the hit. At some point, you have to be willing to say, okay, we're in for some pain, and we're going to have to make some decisions that are painful, but we're going to have to endure that pain if we want to get through this okay. If we want to come out the other side in any kind of functional, stable position. Because if we continue to print, if we continue to spend, it's all going to blow up in our face. And that's what's going on with the Republicans and Democrats right now. Some Republicans want to keep spending. A lot of them want to stop the spending. Democrats just want to give money to everybody. So we have a problem in this country, on both sides of the aisle, I'll admit, of a lack of fiscal responsibility and fiscal understanding. All right, now that I've said my piece, moving on, not surprisingly, central banks that once hoarded dollars are buying gold at the fastest clip on record. In the July-September quarter, central banks more than quadrupled gold purchases from a year earlier, adding nearly a net 400 tons to already sizable stockpiles. These figures from the World Gold Council are no aberration. The year-to-date flurry of gold buying already well surpasses any 12-month period since 1967. This has traders guessing who the real whales are here. Punters doing the math can confirm that about 90 tons worth of purchases can be traced to Turkey, which purchased 31.2 tons of gold. Uzbekistan purchased 26.1 tons. India purchased 17.5 tons, and other developing nations. The other 300 tons, it's widely assumed, bear Chinese fingerprints. And this is one of the ways China is going to decouple from the U.S. dollar. You're going to see the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and so on, build their own reserve currency so that they can step away from the U.S. because they understand what's coming down the line. They understand the path that we're on and what will happen when the U.S. dollar is no longer the reserve currency. We're going to take a massive hit, and it's going to be painful. In the interim, though, U.S. officials are doing Xi's work for him as Washington takes for granted the dollar's exorbitant privilege, as 1960s French finance minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, sorry if I butchered that name, put it. One can connect dots back decades, but the last four presidents all share in the blame. George W. Bush, president from 2001 to 2009, blew Washington's budget surplus on a giant tax cut for the wealthy. Then he launched a costly and credibility-slamming war on terror. Next, Barack Obama from 2009 to 2017 failed to treat the underlying causes of the Lehman Brothers crisis, tending to the symptoms instead. It was on his watch that Republicans played around with the government's debt ceiling. In 2011, S&P Global Ratings yanked away Washington's AAA credit rating. Okay, again, they're trying to lay blame on Republicans, but if you look at the history of things, Democrats have been the ones that have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, wanted to give money to everybody for everything. They wanted everything to be free, everything to be paid for by the government. That's just not sustainable. Not to say that the Republicans are in the right, but trying to put all the blame on the Republicans is asinine. Donald Trump's arrival in 2017 saw another budget-busting tax cut that dwarfed Bush's. Trump's China trade war, meanwhile, undermined trust in U.S. leadership, blah, 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 blah. And then they took a shot at the U.S.'s COVID-19 responses, and I'm not even going to get into that. Joe Biden's arrival in 2021 saw a fresh explosion of government spending. Again, that's the problem there. The tax cuts, all tax cuts is trying to shuffle blame from one place to the other. If you see people saying they're going to cut taxes in one area, so if they're going to cut taxes on the wealthy, they're going to raise them on the poor. If they're going to cut taxes for the poor, they're going to raise them on the wealthy. So a tax cut doesn't mean less money coming into the government. It just means it's coming in from a different area. But overall, even when there are massive tax cuts, taxation itself gets higher and higher. The level of taxation goes up. The amount of money taxed goes up. And the amount of government revenue goes up. No matter how they use the term tax cuts, they're not really cutting taxes. It's just a play on words to justify raising taxes in another area or to take spending from something else. So it's like three-card money, if you want to look at it like that. That's a perfect example of it. Don't look over here because what's actually going on over here. We're doing tax cuts here, but we're raising it here and spending more. That's exactly what it is. But anyway, Joe Biden's arrival in 2021 saw a fresh explosion of government spending. It added to an already chronic public debt challenge and pumped money into an economy already running hot amid supply chain turmoil. Biden hasn't worked fast enough to increase productivity to take the onus off the Fed to curb inflation. Fast forward 671 days, and dollar selling is picking up speed. To some extent, this reflects investors betting that the days of the Fed's hiking of rates in 75 basis point intervals are over. Yet the warning signs from central banks racing to buy gold are hard to ignore. So yeah, this goes on and on and on. This again goes to something I just said earlier when I was talking about Jerome Powell's policies. U.S. Fed Board of Governors member Christopher Waller said last week, "We're not softening. Quit paying attention to the pace and start paying attention to where the end point is going to be. Until we get inflation down, that end point is still way out there." So what they're saying there, stop paying attention to the pace of the rate increases. Stop paying attention to inflation. Until inflation comes back down from the 7, 8, 9% that it's at now, back down to the 2.2% that they want, they're going to continue to raise rates. They don't care where the inflation rate is. They don't care where the interest rate hikes take us to. The end goal, inflation down at 2.2%. The problem is, to get there is going to cause severe economic pain. In the interim, Beijing has been dumping U.S. debt. Between the end of February and the end of September, China sold at least $121 billion of U.S. treasuries. That selling intensified around the time Vladimir Putin's Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay, skip down a little bit more. Now, again, this is another hit on Republicans. Now, as Republicans prepare to hold power in the House, there's chatter about holding the debt ceiling hostage again. This burn-it-all-down tactic would make it hard for Biden's government to pay its bills. Fallout from a resulting default could dwarf the 2008 global crisis. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. Here, again, this website, this article, is trying to lay the blame at the Republicans, saying that Republicans holding the debt ceiling where it is going to cause a default. But on the flip side of that, if you keep raising that debt ceiling, it's like, again, being on the verge of bankruptcy. If you're only making $40,000 a year, you're spending $50,000, $60,000 a year, and you're trying to use loans and credit cards to make up that difference and keep everything rolling along. If you hold that debt ceiling, you hold your spending static. You're not really going to get anywhere. Again, on the flip side, if you're raising that debt ceiling every few months, like we've been doing, all you're doing is you're going from making 40,000, spending 50,000 to spending 55,000 to spending 60,000 to spend 65,000 to spend 70,000. So, yeah, you're not holding that debt ceiling hostage, but you're digging that hole so much deeper, so much faster. And when it happens, when you do have to file bankruptcy, which is going to happen with the United States, it is going to hurt hundreds of times worse than it would otherwise. We don't need to hold the debt ceiling here. We definitely don't need to be raising it up. What we need to do is start cutting spending everywhere that's not absolutely essential. That is the only way you get out of debt. The only way you get out of debt is paying down your debts, earning more money, and reducing spending. Those three things are how you get out of debt. Right now, the United States is spending more, increasing its debt limit, and we're not making more money because there's still a record number of people, although employment is at a record low, supposedly, compared to prior to the pandemic, if you believe Biden's administration. We're continuing to raise the debt ceiling. We're continuing to spend more and more and more. But despite the fact that the unemployment rate is low, you have a record number of able-bodied workers in the United States removing themselves from the job market, from the labor market. So you have less people being productive in the system. You have less people paying taxes in. More people living off of government handouts, government subsistence, welfare. I know that's not a popular term, but that's exactly what it is. If you're living off food stamps, WIC, and all of these handout programs that the Democrats have put into place to support people that didn't want to work for $15, $20 an hour because they wanted $25, that's exactly what's happening. They're on welfare. They're living off the government, which is being paid for by other taxpayers. This is a completely unsustainable approach. Again, there's three ways you get out of this kind of situation. If you're an individual, stop spending, make more money, pay off debt. That's the three ways you get out of this hole that you're in if you're an individual. As a government, as a country, you should follow that same process. Unfortunately, governments are in charge of printing money. So they think they can print their way out of this debt hole and debt crisis. But in reality, all it's doing is making it worse. What we're going to see, as I've said, we're already in a recession. If you don't believe me, go back and look at how we calculated inflation back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And look at how we're calculating it now. And if you calculate it according to the old way, we're in some serious trouble as a country. This can't go on. Now, obviously, as individuals, we have no control over the decisions that our government makes. Technically, the senators, the representatives, all our politicians are supposed to work for us and make decisions based on what's in our best interest, what we want and what's in our best interest. Unfortunately, we have a corrupt and crippled and bloated government where that's not the case anymore. Politicians answer only to themselves and to certain mega corporations that buy them out. So these politicians are voting to continue doing things that's better for them and better for those corporations, without any regard to what we the people need. So we have no effect on that. It's not the way it was supposed to be. Our representatives were supposed to represent us, but we've long since diverged from having any kind of reasonable representation in this country. In fact, I would submit that we are now at a point, much like we were back in the 1770s, we are trapped in a government where we have little to no representation. So again, what can we do? There's not a lot we can do, to be honest. And I know that's disheartening, but on a government level, there's not a lot we can do. We can vote people, make the right choices at a local level. That's where we have a lot of power. Your city, county, maybe even your state, maybe. But ultimately, your power resides in your household and in your community. I've said this before. You need to start building resilience in your own life, the life of your family, and in your community. Do things that make you more self-reliant, where you're less dependent on the government, less dependent on other people helping you out. Grow food. Raise animals if you can. If you can't, build a network of people you can barter with. Build a network of people in your community where you can call on each other when you have need. Community used to be very, very big. 80 to 100 years ago, community used to be very big. If a family needed something, others were there for them. Unfortunately, we've stepped away from that. We need to get back to it. But yeah, grow your food, raise livestock. If you don't have room to do all that, most people can raise a little bit of food, but if you don't have room to do all that, figure out a way of doing a community garden. Build a network of people you can barter with. Develop skills. If you can't grow food or produce food or raise livestock, develop skills. That's going to be key to bartering for the things that you do need. Develop a way of bartering, whether that's using silver, gold, goods and supplies, materials, skills. Don't hold your money in banks, because the path that we're going down, if we go into another major depression, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money very quickly. So it's okay to have a few investments. It's okay to have a little bit in gold, a little bit in silver. You don't want all your money in one thing. You don't want it all in investments. You don't want it all in the bank account. You don't want it all in gold, all in silver. Spread it out, because I promise you, one way or another, you're going to lose money somewhere. And if all your money is in that one spot, you've lost everything. But if you've diversified, if you've spread it out into different areas, you might lose all your investments, but you got some silver over here. You might lose the value of your silver or gold or whatever, but you've got material items over here that hold their value. You've got skills. Build you multiple streams of income. It's what I'm working on right now. So that's my best advice. We have to rely on ourselves, our family, our friends, and our communities. We can't do this alone. This lone wolf idea that a lot of preppers have, that's not feasible. It's not practical. Most people, I mean, there might be a few here and there that can do that, but the vast majority of people can't. So what we need to do, we need to build resiliency in our own lives so that we're not dependent on the government. We're not dependent on any one job. Anyway, that's all I've got. I hope you found this useful. I hope it was of some value to you. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. I'll be coming out with some more videos over the next few days. And until next time, folks, as always, stay safe, take care of yourselves, keep prepping, never stop prepping. And until next time, I'll catch you later.